Hello, thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Addie Carlson here with Crime Stoppers of Houston, today with Maurine Molak from David's Legacy Foundation. We're here to have a very important conversation about bullying prevention, the legislation behind it, education, prevention. We know that in Texas, 1.5 million students report either being bullied or cyberbullied every single year. At Crime Stoppers, we have had the fortunate opportunity to be working with Maurine over the past couple of years, since about 2020, and they have been a fantastic partner for us, making sure that we're giving the best bullying prevention education possible for students. So we're here today in San Antonio, our home city, me and Maurine, at the Education Service Center 20, who has graciously supplied the space for us to have this conversation. Maurine, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to go ahead and open up, tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started in this work, and I'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Addie. It's great to be with you today. My son David died by suicide 8 years ago after months of relentless and threatening cyberbullying that left him feeling helpless and hopeless. It started on Instagram by a group of students at his school, and they said things like put him in a body bag, put him 6 feet under, put him in a coffin. They made fun of his mental health, and they targeted his looks. We didn't really know what to do. We worked really hard working with the school district, but we ended up having to change schools in order to get away from his perpetrators. Since then, after David died, you can imagine all we wanted to do was to prevent this from happening to any other family. And so we worked with the Texas legislature and we passed David's Law in 2017. And we've been working here in the state of Texas ever since.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's awful to hear what those students were saying to David and what that must have been like for your family, but it's so incredible that you were able to turn that pain into effective change for all of Texas. And so I know that with David's Law, that also helps define what bullying is for Texas. So do you want to go ahead and share with us how that's classified under the law and the types of bullying?
Sure. So David's Law actually has a very prescriptive definition of what bullying and cyberbullying is, and there are 4 types of bullying: electronic, written, verbal, and physical. One of the things that we hear often about is the relational bullying, and it can actually fall under any of those types of bullying, so it can be written or physical as far as relational goes. It's really important that, David's Law actually provided for avenues for parents and school districts to work closer together to be able to prevent bullying. One of the areas that I've worked really hard and closely in has been around the mental health issues related to cyberbullying, because I know how it affected David, and it affected his mental health, as well as, it created a crisis in our family it impacted the entire family when we were going through it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know that many students feel that same way, and they just don't know who to reach out to or how to get help. And I think it's fantastic that you're able to provide them so many different avenues, right? There's the civil piece of the code, there's the educational piece, and criminal. So they have so many ways that they can seek help through that legislation.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that every stakeholder had a way to be able to prevent cyberbullying. So we met with all stakeholders that would be impacted by this, and we provided tools for parents, schools, and law enforcement that didn't exist when we were going through it. So we know that it's actually worked. We've seen a reduction in bullying and cyberbullying across the state of Texas since David's Law has been in effect.
That's amazing, and what wonderful work you've done here in the state of Texas. I know that now you're kind of moving on to some other federal legislation. Talk to us a little bit about your work with COSA and COPA 2.0 and where that's headed.
Yeah, so end of July, COSA and COPPA 2.0 passed in the Senate 91-3. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation that has, a great deal of support from parent advocates, from many organizations. There are over 200 organizations that are supporting this, and we're hoping to be able to see it become a law.
Yes. What a
Soon,
win
by the
with
end
the
of
Senate.
by the end of this year. We just had a markup in the House of it last week, and we're going to see it move through the House now. And President Biden has already said that he will sign it if it makes it to his desk. But let me tell you a little bit about what it is. So COSA has been the piece that I've really been working on because it deals with cyberbullying, and it is about safety by design and safety by default. So what I mean by that is the social media companies and the platforms have a responsibility to design and operate their platforms with children's safety in mind. And so there is a responsibility that they will have a very narrow list of harms that they will have to mitigate and prevent children from experiencing those harms. It also requires those platforms to have a safety by default, which means that parents won't have to go in and figure out how to keep their kids safe on those platforms. They will have to default to the highest setting possible. And then if parents want to go in there and relax those safety settings, they can do that. But right now we want all kids across the state of Texas, across the United States, to be able to be protected online.
Absolutely.
And there's also some transparency and some auditing responsibilities that the social media companies will have to abide by. COPPA 2.0, which is an expansion of a law that is already in existence, COPPA, and it increases the age from under 13 to under 17. And it's about not targeting kids with advertising. It is about not collecting unnecessary data and allowing parents to be able to go in and erase any kind of personal information about their children.
That's huge. These bills, I hope, are going to pass very soon and go into effect so that we can start protecting our kids. We know that the internet can be a great place for them to connect with each other and learn new skills, but it's also a scary place and one that we want to make sure we can put as many safety barriers in as possible. So.
Absolutely. I often hear from parents that it's like playing whack-a-mole. As soon as they figure out one app, 3 more pop up, and it's just gotten to be impossible for them to keep their kids safe online. We're not saying that parents get a pass on this.
Right.
We're just saying we need these platforms to be designed in a more safe way.
Absolutely. They can start doing their part in keeping our kids safe and protecting them. So amazing that you've been able to be a part of all this wonderful legislation. I hope that it continues to go well. All right, so let's shift just a little bit and talk a little bit more about the education and prevention, back focusing a little bit more specifically on bullying and cyberbullying. So can you give us some tips for parents out there who maybe their student is already experiencing bullying or being cyberbullied? What can the parents do to help support their child?
First of all, if a child comes to you and they tell you about a bullying situation, I want parents to feel grateful that their child came to them. My child, David, didn't come to me until it had been going on for months because he was afraid we were going to take his phone away from him. So just be grateful, take a deep breath, and if you have to leave the room and compose yourself and not get upset, and then sit down and talk with your child and make sure that they understand that what's happening to them is not their fault.
Absolutely.
And that you're going to help them get through it no matter what, and work with your child on what those solutions could be. Often we'll hear that a parent wants to go straight to the school and report it, and that may not be what your child wants at this time. So it's important to walk through it with them on what the different options are, but that it's important that we make it stop. So it may be that going to the school and alerting them on what's happening for them to get involved in the particular situation. So we want to make sure our kids have autonomy and that they're able to deal with these situations in a manner that makes them feel empowered.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's kind of an ongoing theme that always comes up about any harm we talk about here at Crime Stoppers, whether that's, cyber safety or substance use, right? Having those open conversations with kids, letting them be involved in the decision so that they feel empowered and continue coming forward, right? When they do continue to face different things when they're online and beyond.
Absolutely, because if they feel like you're going to go into crazy mom mode, right, they're not going to come to you in the future when something is happening to them. So we want to make sure that we stay calm and that we work with our children, and that maybe getting the school involved. And the school has some authority that they didn't have before to be able to address things like cyberbullying that occur off campus if it materially affects a student's ability to learn or their desire to go to school.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as resources go for students, of course, we're here with Crime Stoppers of Houston and you're with David's Legacy Foundation. We both do a lot of work in schools for prevention. So for resources from Crime Stoppers, you can always find any and everything at the Resource Center on our website, crime-stoppers.org. We have tip sheets, we have posters available, and if you want to request a presentation for your campus, there's a button there to request a presentation. What about David's Legacy Foundation? How can they get in touch with you directly?
Well, we have a website also, davidslegacy.org, and we do school presentations and community presentations. We also have a legal action arm. So if a parent has gone to the school district to report a situation of bullying and cyberbullying, and the school has done everything that they possibly can to make it stop, and it's not stopping, they can reach out to us. And I have a partnership with the San Antonio Legal Services Association, and we will take those cases on, and it's for anybody across the state of Texas. So it doesn't just have to be in San Antonio, but they're my lead partner, and we work with 4 other legal aid providers across the state of Texas, and we can help families use the injunctive piece of David's Law, which allows for a judge to make a child, as well as the parents of the perpetrators, stop cyberbullying. So we've helped over 500 families with legal help in that regards. Often a cease and desist letter is all that it takes, but people can reach out to us for legal help in that way.
Wonderful. What a fantastic resource for our families as they navigate this world that we now live in with the internet. So how would someone book a presentation with you? If they were ready, they said, we want to go with David's Legacy Foundation, how would they schedule a presentation?
So under our education tab, there is book presentation. They can fill out a form. We can go out to the school. I have 4 retired school counselors who are amazing and work for me, and they will go across the state of Texas and do these presentations, or we can do them virtually if we can't reach them. With October being Bullying Prevention Month, right? You can imagine
Yes.
They're very busy and almost booked up already. But I think, like you said at the very beginning, this is a conversation that needs to happen ongoing, and it's not just October. So we can, if we can't get with you in October, we can certainly get to you in another month.
Absolutely, and the same goes for Crime Stoppers of Houston. Of course, we do these presentations across the state of Texas, but we are also almost at capacity for October this year, but we always offer pre-recorded presentations. If you really want to get that information to students in October, we're happy to provide that. Otherwise, of course, throughout the school year, this is an incredibly important topic for students to hear about throughout the year. So in that, talking about throughout the year, what are other ways that schools can build awareness throughout their campuses? How can they build that awareness and have that underlying theme of bullying isn't tolerated here?
So another piece of legislation that we worked on in 2019 was David's Law 2.0. And what that did was provide some prevention requirements for school districts. And every school campus has to have a committee that addresses bullying and cyberbullying on that committee. And I think that's a great way to raise awareness. So if a parent wants to get involved, they can ask their administrators on their campus, how can they join that committee? And how is that committee structured? And ask those types of questions. I think lots of clubs, we're seeing those cropped up across the state at different school districts, where you'll have kindness clubs and you'll have, student council will take on different projects. We'll have students take the David's Legacy Foundation pledge. I pledge I will never use my device as a weapon. And they will do those campus level pledge drives. So there's lots of ways to raise awareness.
Amazing. I think these bracelets that you have as well, I know these are geared towards younger students, but say the world needs me, right? That's a fantastic message for someone to have on their wrist all the time as a reminder, whether they're dealing with bullying or just struggling with their mental health, right? That reminder that they're important and the world does need them. So we love being able to hand these out when we can, and it's amazing that you provide these for your schools and community outreach that you do as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this important conversation. Thank you, Maureen, for meeting me here today to have this conversation about bullying prevention. And just remember, if you're out there and you're struggling with bullying at your school or with your students, to make sure that you continue this conversation. It is something that should be had throughout the year, not just in October, and it does involve all stakeholders. The parents, the students need to buy into the message and understand the impact that their words have on other people. And educators, of course, as well. They're our first line of defense if it's happening on campus. So thank you all so much for joining us, and hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much, Maureen.
Thank you, Addie.